I want to give some quick tips real fast because it's working on an area here where I pulled a really large dent. Okay, so what I was doing here was pounded out a large dent, and I went ahead and I used the stud welder and I pulled a lot of it, and then I started to hammer and dolly from the inside, pounding on the outside. And I'm using the primer as my guide coat to find a flatness on the panel. And I'll take a DA and I'll sand it down some more, and then I'll pound it some more from the back side and the front side to get it flat. But I started thinking about something, and something that's been brought up a lot lately. Okay, so the subject that's been brought up a lot lately is whether or not you should take it down to bare metal, or even if you can take it down to bare metal and put a coating or fillers over top of it. And it got me thinking about some stuff. The thing is that you have to make an assessment on whether or not you can. And I'm going to show you a good example on an area like this where you shouldn't go over top of the coating that's here. You should probably take it down to bare metal, and I'm going to show you why. Okay, so let's say I'm going to sand this area. I'm going to sand this area. No, I didn't mean it like literally. Let's say I'm going to sand this area, and I think it's okay to go ahead and put a coating over top of it. Now let's say I'm going to put an expensive coating over top of this. Now let's say I'm going to sit out in the sun all day. Okay, now let's say my truck sat out in the sun all day long, and I put coatings over top of these old coatings after I sanded them down. So eventually your fresh coatings are going to start coming off. You need to get this off. So, you know, this tape here is actually it's like a clean release, you know. It doesn't bite down hard. But if I was to throw something like this on here, that would represent more of like a urethane coating, and you'd probably get a hell of a lot more. So my point is, I'm using this primer, factory primer, as a guide coat to pound out this dent, because I am not going to keep this primer on here. I'm not going to keep this on here. This surface rust is getting sanded down to bare metal. All this is. I did do that with this bed also. I did a lot more body work though on the bed, and some custom smoothed out the gas tank door. But the point is that you need to assess it and make sure that the coating that's already on there is going to stay there, because everything you're putting on top of it is subject and at the mercy of everything that's underneath it. So this has definitely got to come off. I wouldn't put anything over top of this. I'd take it down to bare metal, epoxy primer it. You can, you don't have to. That's also an opinion that people like to really argue about. But you can 2K primer over top of this bare metal, which I'm gonna. I'll be using a primer that actually accepts going onto bare metal, or the metal accepts the primer and it stays there. So that's how this is gonna get done. But anyway, I just want to share that with you, and a lot more body work to come on this thing. So another thing I'd like to point out are these little trim rivets here. They're like, they were all over the truck. Trim across the top, trim across the bottom, and I've been grinding them down as I go along, doing each panel. And I want to kind of mention how you don't have to go crazy with like a disc grinder, you know. Okay, so as I was saying, you don't need to go crazy on them little rivets, you know. I have, and I bought this, I think I bought this off Amazon a few years ago, and it's made by this company here, Win, I think. But anyways, it was cheap, you know. I bought it and I thought, well, it'll probably die on me, but it's cheap enough where I could just buy another one. But then I started looking close, and it actually says it's made in Florida. So, you know, maybe designed in Florida, probably manufactured in China. I don't know. Somebody might know. But it's held up for a long ass time. It's got a variable speed on it, so you can run it up. But something like this is really all you need to pinpoint something like this. And you can just make a really tiny, you can just clean it up really simple and small, and it'll save you a lot of work in the long run. I'm gonna just cut these off, you know, and then I'll cut them off, and then I'll grind them down. This belt is ceramic, and they last a long time. They last a lot longer than the green ones. That there's really all you need to do. There just happens to be a million of them, so you'll do it a million times. Forgot what I was talking about. Anyway, I'm going to show you how to weld up a hole like this one here. First, you got to clean it out. Reason being, I don't know if you can get inside there. You want it clean inside there. You need to weld all that up. And what I use is pure copper spoon. Because you can weld a hole that big with something like this without making a piece of sheet metal to go in there. All you got to do is take this piece of copper. Like this. When I take my welding wire and I hit the inside edge of that hole, that welding wire is going to hit that copper and it's going to chase towards the edge, towards the conductive part of this sheet metal. It won't stick to the copper, and you'll have a full weld plug in there. If you don't want to get it too hot, you know, weld it a little bit at a time so you don't warp any of the surrounding areas. So you can see how it chases away from the copper and into the steel. And then if it gets too gummed up, you just clean it up like this one, the wire brush or something. So first glance, I got the tailgate on and aligned really well, man. Like my gaps are good. Both sides, the roll pan. If I could get that gap down here a little tighter, I would have, but I can't, you know. But I think it looks good. And when it's painted, when everything's uniform, it's gonna look really good. So at first glance, everything looks good. But if you come over here and look at this from the side, you can see where it's fucked up. Hi. Okay. Oh, this tailgate's not closing all the way. I've adjusted the hinges and the striker to be as tight as possible. But right here is bowed out a little bit. And normally what I do is I compare this side with the other side to see if this is a factory contour or not. And I know it's not, but to compare it with this side, you can see that this area of the body is flat. That side needs to be flat also. And then down here, looks like what I'm thinking is at some point in time the tailgate was down and this hinge was off, or this bracket was off. And someone stepped on this and it tweaked this here, which also could have pushed that side out. So to fix this, I'm gonna do a little hammer and dollying right there.